Coming ashore on the sea ice along the coast allows us to get very close to the emperor penguins.
When it comes to penguins, these guys truly are the emperors, with this rookery at de Monteville the largest in the world.
These emperor penguins can only be found here in the Antarctic. Standing up to 120 centimetres or 4 foot tall, they're the largest penguins in the world, with a body weight about half that of an average human. Their powerful beaks are used to catch krill and squid, while their colourful feathers are shiny and waterproof, keeping them dry. Right now, in early summer, they're enjoying relatively mild conditions, but in the ferociously bitter Antarctic winter, they have to survive blizzards and temperatures as low as -50 degrees. They're also a species under threat from global warming, with half the population in this rookery dying out as an abnormally long warm period reduced the extent of the sea ice and thus cut the amount of territory to hunt. As we observe these emperor penguins today, we see how they're surviving as individuals, preening to keep their feathers oiled and water repellent, and socialising with other penguins, even other species like the adelies. The emperors will hunt and forage together, and in the water they'll coordinate their diving and surfacing. It's here that they're most vulnerable to attack from killer whales, and as we watch we see just that, a pod of killer whales cruising the edge of the sea ice. How formidable do those whales look as they hunt? They swim right alongside the penguins, their giant fins slicing through the water. They're fearsome predators, and while today the penguins survived an attack, the whales are opportunistic eaters, catching and consuming whatever they find, from penguins through to birds and seals. One creature they find in plentiful numbers will be the emperor penguin chicks. They've begun moulting over the past month, a process which will take the following 2 months. Their parents have stopped feeding them, and they're now on their own, finding solace with their peers. Over this summer, these chicks will spend their time here at the edge of the sea.
Magnificent creatures, these little emperor penguins.
Oh, they're wonderful. It's just a real-life happy feet, and it's quite a famous colony because this is where they made the film, the March of the Penguins. These chicks are contemplating going to sea, having a look at the water, and sometimes they will go to sea with their downy coat like this, but that's a pretty unsmart thing to do because they're not properly waterproof and they're not very manoeuvrable. Prey for leopard seals and maybe some of the killer whales that go past here, but they're not quite ready to go to sea.
Nearby, we find another group of penguins, this time the adelies. They're hungry and they've gathered at the water's edge to go fishing. But they're also very mindful of those cruising killer whales, and so they're in an ever so cautious mode, stalling, shuffling around, going anywhere but into the water. And then it's one in, all in, as they surge into the freezing waters. In the water, there's safety in numbers as they go in search of fish. Krill is their biggest food source, but even that is diminishing as Japanese fishermen take big quantities every year. Today, we watch the adelies propel themselves back onto shore.
What you see behind is a group of adelies, some already primed to go to sea to feed, and others coming out like Polaris missiles from the sea, having been feeding on fish and the Antarctic coastal krill, the so-called crystal krill. So it'd be fair to say that global warming, the effect on penguins here, isn't an issue. It certainly is an issue in other parts of Antarctica, particularly around the Antarctic Peninsula.
Look at this. All rushing at the same time. Now, what's caused that?
I would say that's a feeding frenzy. It's getting close to dinner time here, and they must be feeling hungry as well. They do better in groups in the sea than individuals. Safety in numbers.
This is all taking place around the French base de Monteville. This touch of France is located right in the middle of Australia's Antarctic territory, a pioneering station shared with penguins. Its leader is a most distinguished French explorer, Lawrence de la Ferrière.
In 1996 and 1997, I crossed Antarctica in solo from the bottom of Peninsula up to South Pole. And I was the first French people going to the South Pole by my own. It was very difficult because it was unknown. So I had to find the best way in the middle of crevasses and very cold temperature, because it's very high, and with strong wind, and it's difficult, it's very wild.
Back on the Marina Svetava, we're heading east into thick sea ice. That carpet of ice now surrounds us, meaning to make our way forward, we have to steer straight into it. Thank heavens that bow peeling open the ice sheets is ice strengthened. And then we're stuck hard in the fast ice, deliberately, so that we can climb off the ship and enjoy the wildlife. Because today is a very special day, it's Christmas Day, and the celebrations on board are about to be bettered by some very ice-cool experiences away from the ship. How cool is this? We're able to walk around our ship on thick ice. The Russian crew go one better, taking their cycle out for a spin. And to top that off, our cameraman Jefferson brings out his pogo stick to claim an Antarctic first. He'll be back behind the camera next episode for some more stunning Antarctic experiences.